Committee meeting of the School District of Haverford Township. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will turn it over to Mr. Testa to walk us through tonight's couple of agenda items.
Thank you. So the first item tonight is Coopertown Elementary Design Phase, and that's going to be presented by Jeff Straub from Crabtree and Ken Matthews from CBD. Back again.
So really the only thing was kind of to update the board and just remind, the thought was always to move on once Chatham was approved and start proceeding with the design of Coopertown, which Crabtree's proposal has already been approved. I couldn't tell you what board meeting, but it's been a little while. So we just wanted to see if there's any questions about that, that you're comfortable having Crabtree move forward at this time. So the thought was always they'd proceed sometime this fall, end of year, kind of be done with the design documents, bid end of year, January-ish, depending on the timing. That way award around February and then have a few months to be prepared, contracted, start ordering materials, et cetera, for the start of next summer to move forward with the project. So just wanted to discuss that. If anybody had any questions, concerns, comments.
And while the board members are thinking about any questions that they may have, and this is more so for Jeff, I know one of the aspects of your work is heavy involvement and input on the part of teachers and staff.
Yes.
So is the fact that you will not have access to teachers now until September, does that influence the timeline in any way?
No, it'll actually work well. There's a lot of work to do before we start engaging with teachers. We need to put existing conditions in, get started with things, civil engineering surveys of the site, all those components, have meetings with senior district administration, executive team, and then the building administrative team engage well to sort of refine what the scope of work is. And that would normally take 2 to 3 months anyways. And that's almost perfect timing of when the staff comes back, then we will be ready to essentially sit down with layouts of the building and then start refining their specific spaces, similar to what we did at Chatham.
Could you remind the board and the public what some of the goals, the needs that were identified at Coopertown to be addressed in this project?
Scope was generally similar to Chatham Park. We're adding additional classrooms and sort of 21st century breakout spaces, so small group instructions, open collaborative areas. You've got situations where education or student services is occurring in storage rooms now, just because the building has expanded and you're utilizing every space in the building. The other goal was to get rid of the modular classrooms that are there on the site right now, expand safety and security throughout the building, essentially do reorganization, improve the finishes throughout the building, very similar to what we did at Chatham Park. Coopertown just recently had its roof replaced, so that's something that we don't need to do like we are doing it at Chatham Park. So the goal was really to bring the building up to sort of a similar standard as your other schools, as well as Chatham Park, that we'll start the construction now. So.
Not mistaken, the expansion will also allow enough room for full-day K if that eventually becomes
That was
reality?
the goal of trying to do similar, set the building up very similar to what the discussions that we've had at Chatham Park.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Yes, that has been, Jeff is accurate. That has been one of the things that we have looked at for expansion in the buildings. But I am very mindful that I don't want the board to feel committed in that our enrollment continues to increase and those spaces are still needed. So that, because the question has been asked a few times. So when we say, yes, that has been one of our considerations, I think it's important to note it's a consideration, assuming that the enrollment increases as it's projected to increase and that there's no spike
Sure.
over time. Sorry.
No, it's great.
And so in terms of process, this is for discussion tonight. Will there be a board action at an upcoming meeting, or do they have everything they need to proceed since we had previously gotten them started?
I guess technically we probably don't. It was more if there was a sense that the board wanted to pause for any reason, just to kind of double check and make sure everybody's on the same page.
And really just have that discussion with all of you, and so,
Okay.
okay.
All right, so I appreciate this check-in and glad that we can keep that schedule as previously outlined intact.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Item B on the agenda is to open up a discussion on the sustainability resolution draft.
For that, I will first turn it to several board members who workshopped this resolution.
Yeah, I guess I'll make a start. So we had a ad hoc sustainability committee that was formed and looked at policy 712, the sustainability policy, and we felt that some things we wanted to include might be more appropriate in a resolution format. And that's based on the fact that we didn't have all the information necessary to, for example, what would be the timing of, looking at transportation, and would it make sense? And, would 2050, which is the township goals for renewable energy, does that make sense for the district? So we drafted this resolution. It basically acknowledges the Haverford Township has adopted a climate action plan setting certain targets, and that we will then move forward with determining how to implement and meet those sustainability goals for the district. And so the first be it resolved is to look at best practices in 5 different areas: energy management, waste reduction and recycling, water conservation, sustainable transportation, and environmentally responsible purchasing. And they will then use those audits in those 5 areas to identify the most feasible target goals and dates that we can implement then in further updating policy 712 and 712AR. So I'll stop there if any of the other ad hoc committee people would like to comment.
I'd like to thank you for the work on this, and I mean, I do like the fact that we talk about a sustainability action plan. I think that's a critical part of this resolution. A lot of times, resolutions are kind of statements of board goals and that kind of thing. This actually, I think, has some real meat to it, if you will. It's really talking about some of some things that we would like to do, as opposed to just saying here's what the board believes, or here's what the board kind of strives to be. I like this a lot.
And so on that point, I know we don't have a solicitor with us at this meeting, but I think we should check in with the solicitor and see what a resolution does do. It is usually a statement of purpose or setting goals, aspiration. Simply passing a resolution does not commit the board or the district to expending funds in the near term, or certainly 20 years down the road. So I think we should get the solicitor's input to understand what the implications and consequences would be of passing this. My understanding is a resolution is more typically used for that statement of purpose, direction, and goal.
Pretty sure they're still non-binding, though. They're not bound to anything, but I do like some specifics that I mentioned in here.
I think for me, I was surprised by the specifics. Well, I was surprised by the specific goals without an understanding of what it would take to get to those goals, because I think like we just heard, putting solar on an entire roof of a building gets us like 10 to 20% of the energy there. And so 100% by 2050, like what does that look like? How would that happen? What kind of money would we need to spend? Is it even possible? Are any other districts doing this? I guess I would have liked to see something actually more as a general goal, and then to find out the information of what would it take to get to 100% renewable electricity. Well, 100% renewable electricity by 2035, so that's actually like 10 years away. And then 100% renewable energy for heating and transportation by 2050. Like, are there school buses today that you can buy that are completely electric? And if so, like, how much do they cost? Are there those school buses are they gaining favor? Are they getting cheaper? I don't know. I just have, like, for me, this just creates 1,000 questions. So I would be more inclined to do something that is broader and gives us goals. And then if like we wanted a specific to say, there would be a study. I know, Chris, you've brought up before the study of, that the township has done for how to get to goals. And so even though it is a resolution and it's in that way non-binding and doesn't commit us to funds, I would still want to know, is this even possible?
Yeah, I just want to be sure you're looking at the latest version.
Oh,
Okay.
I looked at the version on the agenda.
Okay, that's the latest version, but I think in the first be it resolved, I mean, I completely agree with you because, actually talking to someone who has looked into this more, it would be, converting our buses, to say electric fleet would be a big investment, not only in the buses, but also in the infrastructure to charge them. And, we don't have the expertise to determine that. So the first item here in the be it resolved is to actually conduct an audit to determine and try to develop more actionable goals in that
I
area.
think those 2035 and 2050 years, those are acknowledgements of the townships.
Right, yeah, those are the township goals.
Yeah, in the visible target goals and dates for transitioning 20% renewable electricity. So the finding of that could be, we're not going to get 200%, but I mean, that's, and it's not even saying that that's really, I mean, says, I think it's pretty clear, most feasible target goals. The township's doing one thing, we're doing something a little bit probably, larger and more challenging, but I mean.
I guess I would feel more comfortable taking that whole paragraph out that refers to the Haverford Township's plan, and then that we are supporting their plan, because when I read those two things together, it sounded like we were adopting their plan.
But we're
And so
not, it
I
just
can-
says that we're acknowledging it. It doesn't in any way say that's our set target. I think one of the things that's important to remember is when we were, like, as we were discussing this, is to remember that resolutions are supposed to be bold, right? They're a place for like a large goal for us to be setting to. They're not legally binding. We've gotten assurance they're not legally binding. They're here to set us to have broader, larger goals. And it's not committing us to that. It's saying that this is the township's, and we're acknowledging that we're part of the township, and we'd like to keep that in mind. I think that when we're doing things around environmental sustainability, having multiple layers of accountability as we keep moving forward, because it's a whole new world, right? And we're trying to navigate that. Yeah, I know when we were in our discussions talking about it, this does seem, if we were saying that we are committing to this, that feels too much. But in this paragraph is very specifically saying we're acknowledging the township has committed to this, not us.
I think then if we feel like we need to keep that paragraph in, I would remove the first phrase of the next one that says we're committing to support their climate action plan goals, because that's what I read to then sort of looks like we're adopting it.
Should we just say, I mean, would you be more comfortable say, be resolved that Haverford School Board commits to climate action goals or something more non-specific?
Determined through,
Yeah, determined through a plan.
Process, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I would refer to like the process that we're undertaking to find our own goals.
Okay, I
Like
see.
that's what I would say,
Okay,
right?
I see what
And-
you're saying.
Because Haverford Township, in passing its climate action plan, that only pertains to facilities directly under their control, right? They are not saying all of Haverford Township is going to, right? Like, it's not every property owner or things like that. It's just their facilities. Is that correct?
I don't think they legally can do that.
Right.
Their climate plan includes community, the whole community, so encouraging recycling and things like that. They have a 40-page climate action plan.
Right, but individuals, say homeowners,
Right.
are not bound to 100% renewable electricity by
Sure.
2035 because the township set a plan.
Yep.
And so when we talk about supporting something or for the Haverford, we are focused also on just our facilities, the schools and buildings that we are stewards of. Okay.
So yeah, I think if we can rework that, I mean, I would say, I would still feel more comfortable taking out that paragraph that refers to the township, but if we want to leave it in, I would change the next one to say that we're looking into our own goals.
Okay,
Right.
So you're thinking that first whereas, or that last whereas, okay, I can follow with you.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know, I'm not a resolution expert here, but are the whereas, are those providing the basis for what we resolved
Or
in
like
the
the
resolution?
background facts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
where,
background, right?
yeah, right.
Okay,
And then the therefore be it resolved is
right.
thing what we're going to do, which is, yeah,
I mean, so I think. I
about
mean,
our
we're-
own goals, right?
Right, so I mean, the first one's about, urgent threat of, posed by climate change, second one is fossil fuels, third one is the township's done this, and so be resolved. Yeah, I would like to keep the third whereas, but I'm totally on board with changing the first, be resolved, if you want to talk.
I have a question. If we change the first, be it resolved, are we going to put language in there that says we're actually going to put resources behind trying to do our own studies? Because I read that first line to say, we support the township's climate action goals by engaging external experts to conduct sustainability audits of our operations. So are we still committing to do that? Or are we just saying we're not committing to what they're doing and we'll get around to making some goals of our own at some point?
I mean, we're not committing, this resolution doesn't commit any resource, or that'd be a separate vote that would happen at a
But it would
later
still include
time.
that, it would still include that language about engaging experts, I believe.
So we'd have to have an audit proposal plan that we would then vote on at a later time.
I mean, I would just remove the township reference there and say commits to creating its own goals or researching its own goals, however we want to refer to ourselves. But remove the reference in our resolved paragraph to the township.
And then to that point about what resources would be required possibly to fulfill this, it says conduct sustainability audits, plural. What do you think would be involved?
I mean, I think the idea there was that there's, you would probably need to look into each of these 5 different areas separately. I think it would be difficult to, I'm just imagining, perhaps you could try to audit everything at once, but I'm just trying to put in some, I think that the goal was to allow a little bit of wiggle room there to tackle each area individually.
Audits, I think, also help establish baselines.
But if the township establishes a baseline, then we could come back and say, would that work for us? And if it doesn't work for us, then we could go ahead and reject that versus us trying to put together our own plan. I guess what I'm asking is, do we have the ability to put together our own plan?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't see this resolution as tying us to what the township might be doing.
But it does sound like it's raised that confusion in
Right,
how
yeah.
different board members are reading it, so something to look into.
Well, I wasn't personally confused. We are part of the township. I was reading it as an acknowledgement that the township is already working on this. We are part of the township. If the township identifies what could be for us as low-hanging fruit, instead of us going back and saying, hey, let's figure out if we can do this, we'll engage somebody at, minimum cost, and they'll come back and say, good idea, board, vote in it or not. I see us, without acknowledging the township, it's saying, okay, we're gonna do this on our own.
I guess that's a point of clarification. Thank you, because is the township engaging in studies that review or assess district properties?
I'm not aware that they are. I mean, they have an EAC committee, Environmental Advisory Committee. And in fact, one of the members spoke at the last board meeting to encourage us to make use of their resource to help us, in terms of setting our own goals.
So we're not expecting direction from the township?
We could, I think.
I don't know.
As part of, at the Facilities and Finance Committee meeting, we could have them come in and give input.
I think the
Or
EAC
perhaps
did-
would it be helpful to have the township come and talk about what they've done?
Mm-hmm.
And how they did it?
I guess for me, I don't need the language to change. I think it's incredibly clear that we're not committing to do, that we're part of the township. We're part of this, and so for me, I don't need the language to change and would prefer it to stay.
I will add just another perspective on this is we are nearing the end of the district's 2020 to 2025 strategic goals. And this in some way feels like a moonshot to me, right? Like this is putting out an ambitious, bold goal that I wonder how it could fit in with the strategic plan process that we'll be undertaking to set a broader direction for the district in the next 5 years. And that is coming up soon. And I think it would be compelling, it would be helpful to have an environmental stewardship plank come through that process in addition or separately from just a board resolution.
Totally agree. Baby steps up to the big ones.
But just to be clear, the resolution is just us saying that this is the direction we're aiming ourselves in, right? So it doesn't prohibit us from making big goals. It should be lofty. It should be something that I can see from every conversation we're having, right? We're not really committing to much. We're just saying that this is what's important to us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's right, adding a lens for our analysis of the decisions.
So then there could be both, right? There could be a resolution and there can be, some capacity for us to also continue this conversation in the goal setting process for 5 years. I'm asking, does it have to be either or? Because it doesn't sound to me like it has to be.
Yeah, I'm not saying it has to be either. It's just thinking of another way, another opportunity that
clarify our
board,
big, hairy goal, right? And we can sit down and when we talk about strategic plan, how can we clarify that, but at least aim ourselves in that direction? I'm just asking because I actually like the language. I was just curious to see where we were going with this. Thank you.
I guess another question I have is what a sustainability audit looks like and how involved it is. And would we get quotes for that? What?
So, I mean, I do know someone in the community that does this for a living for energy management. And it would be a quote process where they would come in, they would audit energy use in the buildings. Some of the questions we had for Crabtree, our architects.
right, to build off of that maybe.
And is that substantively different from what we get from JR every year?
I think, I mean, and Chris, I don't know if you had thoughts about this since you probably know more about this, but I mean, I think yes, because we definitely, JR does a great job with efficiency and everything else. I think this provides another lens, and people who are experts specifically in this field. I mean, it's turned into its own field, really. Sustainability audits and everything. And so people are going to see things that even JR, I think, might miss. So I think bringing somebody in who's a real expert in the field will be beneficial, and also probably would be able to provide us with actual numbers to back up some of these things. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things, is really in prioritizing what we do. I want to see some numbers and some analytics behind it.
As someone who is not especially well-versed in what it would take to get to 100% renewable electricity by 2035, can you give just some examples of what that might entail, like putting a solar array on a roof? Would we need more of that? Is it, like, I wondered too, is it as simple as just changing our energy source supply, right? Like if we elect.
Do we know how much energy right now we get from renewable electricity?
We can certainly ask. We work with Provident Energy. They do our consulting and electricity purchasing through the Delaware County Intermediate Unit. I did have a discussion with them, and if we were to go out and purchase renewable energy credits, I believe they said it would be between like $35,000 and $50,000 in addition to what we pay for energy. So it's not that it would be a savings, it would be more a cost to move towards that initiative.
I think it's also important to kind of realize there's a hierarchy in this. It's like for reduce, reuse, and recycle. That's a hierarchy. First you reduce, you can't reduce, you reuse, you can't reuse, then you recycle. It's similar with energy. It's not nearly as snappy of a line, but I mean, kind of the lowest rung on that would be to purchase credits. Higher rung would be to purchase clean energy, and then the highest rung would be to make your own, more or less. That's kind of the way that it goes. So it's more of like, we could certainly purchase green energy, and that's helpful. It's positive, more positive than doing nothing. But there are certainly better options as you move up. So transitioning to 100% renewable could mean a mix of a variety of different things.
I think these questions are more appropriate for an audit and not for the resolution. I think the audit process is something that we want to invest in, but I think for tonight, this is about the resolution, and it does feel like this is more questions than I think any of us who participated in the resolution are prepared to answer. I really think these are questions for someone who's conducting an audit.
Okay, I was just trying to get a little more context for what this is saying we will endeavor to do, but appreciate that, there's a level of detail that this board does not possess the expertise on. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion on this proposed sustainability resolution?
Do we have some revision?
If board members have additional ideas after this discussion, who would be an appropriate person? Is it to Chris or?
I mean, I can take that action to, if there's any comments about the language, I can try to resolve them.
Okay, and so as a next step, it would be that the revised resolution comes back to the board at some point for a vote.
Right. Yes, that would be the intent. And I guess if there's substantial revision, we might, similar to the policy discussion.
Right.
It sounds like, maybe just a slight rewording of the, making sure that we make it clear that we're not at this time committing to that goal, but we're, acknowledging the township. That's what I heard.
All right, well, thank you for the work that the board members did in the ad hoc committee to draft and propose this, and for engaging in this conversation with the rest of us tonight.
So the final item for tonight are just information items in your packet. One, will be looking to approve a renewal agreement for the athletic trainer with the district, and that's through Premier Orthopedics. They've been with the district for several years, so this is just renewing them for one additional year. And we've also included your May 23-24 revenue and expense report.
Are we voting on the athletic trainer agreement next week?
Sorry, yes, that'll be up for vote next week.
Thank you.
I had a question about this because it comes up on the bill list every, month. And do we, how often do we look at competitive process for these services?
For what services?
Or this-
Athletic training.
The
Athletic trainer services. They've been happy with Premier, and I know there's not a lot of organizations that do it, but they specifically went out to renew with them. They did not expand the scope of.
And when was the last time we did look at a competitive?
We can find that out.
Yeah, we could find that out.
Okay.
I know the last contract was a 3-year contract, so I could find out how far they've gone back.
And when you say they went out, is that the high school
Yes.
administrators?
Yes.
Okay, principals.
And that's it for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so then that concludes the agenda items. There's opportunity for public comment on finance and facility matters, if anybody here would like to speak. Okay.
I didn't come here to speak on that. I came here to speak on wisdom. But one of the speakers gave me an idea to add some wit and wisdom to this meeting. I am Rich McGlory. I still live at 1246 Dill Road, Havertown, Pennsylvania. And the first speakers on the renovations to the school spoke about jamming kids into small spaces for small group instruction. And I just want you to know that in 1975, that I became a reading teacher at University City High School. My first classroom was a book room in the basement of University City High School. And with 2 years, we moved up the second floor, right off the commons area, which was where all the action was. And we had a little cluster of rooms for every teacher, an ideal setting with an office that had 8 little offices too for all the reading teachers, that we began developing a wonderful reading program. Because reading interventions are best taught in small classes. Optimally about 10. I had 15, 17, 19, and we did great. And that's very important. And I explained that to the designers who spoke about that importance. When you design for a school, you need spaces for small group instruction. For instance, in the middle school, at the Challenger game, we figured out how many autistic kids were coming to the middle school from all our schools around, and there were at least 6. What a perfect size for reading instruction taught by a certified reading teacher for 6 kids that we saw graduate on Friday that need reading instruction by a certified reading teacher. So that just came up here, but I really want to speak about it.
At our next committee meeting, right? Well,
Thank you.
thank you, yes.
Teachable moment.
And while the next speaker is coming up, I know that has been an interest of the board, is looking at the layouts of both Chatham, and I assume we'll do the same with Coopertown to see where those learning opportunities are, how the design is to integrate those learning spaces throughout the facility.
Hi, my name is Joy Baxter. I live on Sue Ellen Drive. And yes, I spoke at the last week's meeting about the sustainability. I forgot exactly what it was then called. I just wanted to reiterate kind of what I was thinking as you guys are planning for this. First of all, the climate action plan that I'm on the co-chair of the EAC in Haverford Township. The climate action plan that the Haverford Township did was helped by an external organization called ICLEI. And there's a lot of external work that they get interns to do a lot of these things. What's needed is a point person either on the board or in the school board, on school board staff, in order to coordinate. The other thing is that many members of the EAC and the township would be willing to help the school district. However, as an EAC, we are advisors to the township commissioners. Therefore, it would be helpful if you guys wanted to have volunteers who are more experts in the field to form your own committee who can be advisors to the school board for sustainability things and helping coordinate. We do have a lot of experts in the township, and we have a lot of experts who want to help the school board and the school district. We just haven't been able, we don't have a mechanism in order to be able to help. That's it.
Thank you for that offer. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on finance and facilities? Seeing none, this committee is adjourned, and we will resume momentarily for curriculum and pupil services. Thank you.